next we have Mr. Paul Hu. Mr. Wu is the General Manager of Jet Airways India, based in Singapore, and oversees the Oceania region, which includes New Zealand, Australia, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Fiji. He has extensive industry experience, having worked with Jet Airways for 24 years, and today we'll focus on Jet Airways and its growing footprint in the international network, and particularly in the Southwest Pacific region. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together to welcome Mr. Wu.
Thank you, Priyanka, for the kind and generous introduction. Distinguished leaders, dignitaries, the INZBC team, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon on behalf of Jet Airways. And thank you very much for having us participate as a partner on the 5th annual INZBC Summit. Now, I just called my wife because in the first session, it was told that unless and until one of the airlines commit to having direct operations into New Zealand, the person should not be let go of from New Zealand. So I said, okay, good news. I'm being held out here, so you pack your bags and come. On a serious note, I know that there'll be a panel discussion later on, so I'll keep the question and answer session on the direct connectivity later on in the session. My session right now is going to be on 2 slides on, at the cost of being repetitive, it'll be on the macroeconomic drivers of India, what is driving the economy of India, and then a little bit of stats, which again is going to be a little repetitive, not to confuse anybody, but a little bit of stats on how the world air traffic is growing, how is India panning out, and how is the Asia-Pacific region panning out. So, and to keep the time in mind, I'll keep it relatively short. So these are the few economic macro drivers of India. As already known, we are the second largest populated country with 1.2 billion people. What does that mean is that the country is in the forward going to be led. The economy is going to be led by the millennials because the median age is about 27 years, right? So we have a fairly young generation leading the nation. We have the largest diaspora outside of India. The stat says that about 20+ million Indians are across 215 countries. So that makes us a large diaspora in the overseas market. 65% of the population is in the working age group. Again, what does that mean is that the spending power of the middle class has increased remarkably. So more and more people are able to spend on luxury items, luxury goods, traveling, so on and so forth. Nearly 40% of the people in India are upwardly mobile, meaning they travel between different cities, different states. And out of the 2 billion population, it's interesting to know that only 2% of the Indians fly domestically and 0.5% fly internationally. So you can imagine that what is the potential of growth in India? It's humongous, right? So that's some stats for you about, the others are about 9 million Indians migrate between states. Again, a huge opportunity where travel comes into play. India is ranked about 2nd in the Global Consumer Confidence Index, and we are gaining popularity as a destination with the initiatives and campaigns of the government, such as Make in India, because in one of the sessions, I saw that the Make in India campaign was being highlighted. So these are the the broad-based macroeconomic drivers of the economy. Moving on, A little bit of stats on the aviation growth globally and India, and as well as Asia Pacific. If you step back, it's been seen that every 15 years, world air traffic doubles itself. And the way forward is that in the next 20 years, it is going to grow at the same pace. In terms of percentage, probably the ballpark is about 4.5% every year. The center of gravity, of course, is shifting towards east. And again, if you step back from the 1970s, you see that every decade or two, the center of gravity has changed. In the 1970s, it was US, then it moved to Europe, then the Middle East, and now the focus is on the Asia-Pacific region. And the estimated growth in the Asia-Pacific region is about 5.7 as compared to the 4.5 of the world air traffic. So again, what this means is 36% of your RPKs, which is the revenue per passenger kilometer, which essentially means the revenue full paying passengers, will come in from the Asia Pacific region, which is this part of the world. How does India traffic see itself panning out? Now, I know that people have, my earlier speakers have elaborated on the Indian aviation growth. India is growing at a pace of about 20+% in the last 3 years. That's a very, very substantial growth. And the estimate is that in the next 20 years, like my colleague Kush also mentioned, the ballpark is it will grow anywhere between 8 to 9%, as compared to the earlier 5.7 and the 4.5 of the world air traffic. If I can put an analogy to what this means, and the analogy is with cricket. Why cricket is because it's a sport which connects both India and New Zealand. So if we are in the 20-over T20 match, let's say that Indian Aviation is in the second over of the inning, and if we are in the 50-over match, we are in the fifth over. So what we have seen is just 10% of the growth. There is a humongous amount of growth which is there looking forward for us. But yes, the question is also, these are all unconstrained data that we have. So what Kush also mentioned, it has to go hand in hand with the infrastructure growth that is to be supported for this growth that we see estimate. Again, what does this mean? We've already spoken about the growth in India. So it's going to mean, in one sentence, there are going to be too many airports in India, but too little capacity. So you will have the metro airports with a lot of capacity constraint, but you'll have a lot of other airports where the traffic movement can be improved. It's not typical to India. You have countries like Japan where a similar situation arises. Haneda is one example where it is the most constrained airport in the world, and Japan has a number of airports which are not utilized to its fullest capacity. But having said that, I think in the next 15 to 20 years out, Indian aviation will play out. We will see improvements, infrastructure and otherwise, and the whole ecosystem has to be kind of improved and support the growth which we see. Again, I don't want to confuse you with numbers. I heard 900 aircrafts, 800 aircrafts, but my stat says that in the next 20 years, India would need about 1,700 plus aircrafts. Currently, we are at about 500 plus aircrafts running in the country. Yeah? So that's a little bit of stats. I move on to how Jet Airways will partner this growth. So I needed to give you a base so that I pitch in as what Jet Airways can do to partner in the growth of India. A little bit about Jet Airways. We celebrated our 25th year in May 2018. We grew from 4 aircrafts to 122 aircrafts. In 2017, we carried about 30 million passengers, and that was a growth of about 10% year on year. We had a base of about 1,000 employees when we started, or less than 1,000 employees, and today we have 16,000 plus employees in the organization, and that's minus the contractual employees that we already have. We have double the population of New Zealand as our frequent flyer members. That's 8 million in our base, and I think I take pride in saying that because we've grown in this frequent flyer program of ours. 2.8 million social media fans and about 3.1 million mobile app downloads. A total of about 66 destinations in the domestic and international. So that's pretty large, especially in the international footprint that we have. Now, the codeshare partners and the interline partners are a relation to the, I would say, demand for a direct connectivity between India and Auckland. Today, we do not fly directly to Auckland, but we have partners like Hong Kong Airlines, who we are partnering with a one-stop over Hong Kong, and other interline partners also, where you can do just a one-stop and seamlessly reach not only the metro cities that we connect from the Asian hubs, but the entire 46 destinations that we operate into India. Okay. The key drivers for our business is basically going to be the mechanism, the three wheels which need to be oiled and serviced effectively, is the operational excellence, which means that our on-time performance, we're very focused on on-time performance, maintaining synergies with our partners, because without the ground handlers, without our partners, we would not be able to kind of maintain the on-time performance that we have as a KPI. And then we have improved revenue streams in the operational excellence wheel. The next one is network and fleet. We're trying to rationalize the fleet. So there goes, the study of new routes, and expansion is a very key integral part of any airline. Without expansion, without the planning team, I don't think so any airline can grow. So, that's where new routes or even Auckland can fit in, but it needs a lot of factors that need to be considered when operating a new route. And the next one is product and services. We pride ourselves in being a full-service carrier. We pride ourselves in providing customer service, which is par excellence, and we focus on making ourselves a very differentiated service provider for our guest. So all this actually boils down to what is our business philosophy. We want to provide connectivity to our customers, the choice, convenience, comfort, and all this we want to give the passengers the experience of the joy of flying. And at the end of it, our USP is that we want to bring our signature Indian hospitality to the world. I'll run through these slides because these just give you our route network. The split between domestic and international is 55% of our revenues come from the international network that we have, although we have just about 20 international stations as against 46 in the domestic. That spans the entire length and breadth of India. On the international side, we have 150 flights a day. So a lot of focus on the international side. And we do recognize that with the growth of the domestic Indian aviation, there is going to be a strong growth in the corporate and the high-end business leisure traffic as well. So that's where we kind of come in, and we need to take our share of the pie. So this is what we have from Auckland with a one-stop in Hong Kong. We have a partnership codeshare with Hong Kong Airlines. Anybody wanting in the meantime that we do not have direct connectivity, and with the encouragement that I see around the hall, that in improvement in trade relations. Anybody of you who want to fly India from Auckland, please try Jet Airways with partnership of Hong Kong Airlines, and we would welcome you on board. We also have partnership with Qantas over Australia, but that would be a 2-stop, and Jetstar. So that's where we give a choice of our partners flying all over from Auckland to India. We've just recently shifted up European base from Brussels to Amsterdam, and that's giving us very positive returns. So we connect to about 55 destinations within Europe with a partnership with Air France KLM, about 17 odd points in the US, where Delta also comes on board. From this part of the world, we have Qantas, very strong. Product-wise, our international product is on wide body, over 6 hours of flight. So that is a 3-cabin configuration with the first class, which has a private suite, business class, which is a semi-private suite on a 330-200s. And in the domestic, we've just started getting the deliveries of our MAX 737 aircrafts. Just to give you a shot, because I heard Kush was very privileged in flying the new aircrafts into India. So I just wanted to show some pictures of the business and economy class. This, by the way, the MAX is giving us a cost saving of about 10 to 15%. I'll skip these slides because the video has already been played. Our hubs are Mumbai and Delhi Airport. And these are our partners where probably that's the choice that we give if we are not flying direct, where you can have the choice of so many partners and reach your destination. We have the Jet Privilege Loyalty Program, which I mentioned about. And some extras like even if you fly on another carrier into India, you have the option of buying the Explore India Pass, which gives you the flexibility of higher baggage allowance and date changes, so on and so forth. The EduJet program is relevant because there are a lot of Indian students coming into New Zealand. So we have a program called the EduJetter to facilitate students coming into New Zealand, which gives us benefits. Thank you very much once again.